Good evening. Welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Asia Sharma. Here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Wednesday, the 17th of January. Prime Ministers of India, Israel inaugurate entrepreneurship center in Western India. Pakistan's Muslim clerics unite to issue directive against suicide bombings. And Afghan forces to get double air support, says top US General Nicholson. And now for all the details. Prime Ministers of India and Israel on Wednesday inaugurated iCreate Center, a startup hub in India's western Gujarat province. While addressing the event, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that innovation brings the people of the two countries together.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Israeli counterpart Benjamin Netanyahu on Wednesday attended the inauguration of iCreate Center, a startup hub in western Ahmedabad city. While addressing the gathering during the ceremony, the Israeli leader said that Prime Minister Modi very well understands the transformative power of technology and young people, as these two are the future. He said that innovation brings the people of India and Israel together.
I'm delighted to be here at iCreate. The world knows about iPod, they know about iPad. Well, there's one more I that the world needs to know about: iCreate.
Earlier in the day, the Prime Ministers travelled in a motorcade to Sabarmati Ashram, a hermitage which was set up by Mahatma Gandhi, an icon of the Indian independence movement. At the hermitage, Netanyahu, accompanied by his wife Sarah, paid tribute to Gandhi, learned about spinning cotton on Gandhi's trademark wheel charkha, and flew kites. Since Prime Minister Modi took office in 2014, India and Israel have grown closer, widening commercial cooperation beyond their long-standing defence ties.
India's Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj on Wednesday, talking tough on terrorism, said it is undeniably the mother of all disruptions today. Swaraj made the remarks on the second day of Raisina dialogue, an ongoing multilateral conference in New Delhi.
Indian Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj on Wednesday said that terrorism is undeniably the mother of all disruptions today. Swaraj made the remarks while addressing the ongoing geopolitical conference Raisina Dialogue in Indian capital New Delhi. In a veiled indication to Pakistan, Swaraj did not step back from saying that terrorism from governed spaces is much more dangerous.
Terrorism is undeniably the mother of all disruptions today. Our attitude towards terrorism has evolved in the last few decades. There was a time when it was seen as others' problem or a law and order situation. Not just that, it was also actively utilized as an instrument of statecraft. That time has gone long by.
The Raisina Dialogue, since its inception in 2016, has emerged as India's flagship conference on geopolitics and geoeconomics. The third edition of the conference this year also featured Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on its first day.
In news from Pakistan, more than 1,800 Pakistani religious scholars representing different schools of thoughts on Tuesday issued an Islamic directive in Islamabad city, forbidding suicide bombings. The move seeks to curb attacks by Islamist militants that have resulted in thousands of casualties since early 2000s.
More than 1,800 Pakistani Muslim clerics issued an Islamic directive or fatwa forbidding suicide bombings in a book unveiled by the government on Tuesday. The move seeks to curb attacks that have resulted in thousands of casualties since the early 2000s carried out by Islamist militants. The fatwa was ratified by a number of prominent clerics who are outspoken critics of liberalism and the West, and are seen as controversial for preaching sectarianism or supporting the Afghan Taliban.
ये फतवा इस्लामी तालीमात की रूह के ऐन मुताबिक है, जिस पर अमल दरामद से इंतहा पसंदी के फितने पर काबू पाने में मदद मिलेगी.
At no time shall be allowed to be used for propagation of any kind of terrorism, intellectual and practical training of terrorists, recruitment of terrorists, conducting terrorist activities in other countries, and other such ulterior motives.
Pakistani officials deny frequent US allegations of sheltering militants on its territory and have claimed vast gains have been made over the past decade against militant outfits. Earlier this month, US President Donald Trump had targeted Islamabad in a tweet and blamed it for continuing to provide safe havens to militants. After the statement, Washington announced suspension of all security assistance to Islamabad until it takes decisive action against militant groups operating on its territory.
Moving on, locals in Gilgit-Baltistan have alleged they have been kept bereft of the benefits of multi-billion-dollar China-Pakistan Economic Corridor project. They blamed Islamabad claims a lot of progress in the illegally occupied region due to the project, but it actually doesn't exist.
Residents of Gilgit-Baltistan continue to blame the authorities of ignoring them since the launch of multi-billion China-Pakistan Economic Corridor or CPEC project in the region. They allege they have been kept bereft of CPEC's benefits and blame the authorities of claiming development in the region which actually doesn't exist. Locals believe CPEC is an exploitation of the natural resources of the region by Pakistan and China.
लोगों को है कि खदशात की हमें नहीं आगाह किया जा रहा है, हमें इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं दी जा रही. यही चीज़ गिलगित-बल्तिस्तान के लोगों को भी है कि हमसे छुपाया जा रहा है, शेयर नहीं की जा रही, हमें कुछ बताया नहीं जा रहा और वो उनको क्लैरिटी नहीं है इस चीज़ पे कि ये CPEC है क्या चीज़.
Locals blame Pakistan has consistently maintained its oppressive attitude towards people of the region and has even ignored their basic demands. A part of the erstwhile Jammu and Kashmir province of India, Gilgit-Baltistan was annexed by Pakistan illegally more than 6 decades ago.
In news from Afghanistan, General John Nicholson, commander of the US forces in Afghanistan on Monday, said the US air support to Afghan security forces will be doubled in the next war season in order to put more pressure on insurgents. He made the remarks during a change of command ceremony in Afghanistan's Helmand province.
Commander of the US forces in Afghanistan, General John Nicholson, on Monday said the US air support to Afghan security forces will be doubled in the next war season in order to put more pressure on insurgents. The US general made the remarks during a change of command ceremony at the Shurab military base northwest of Lashkargah, the provincial capital of southern Helmand province. The US had earlier announced it will invest $4 billion in the next 3 to 4 years in the Afghan Air Force to enable them to stand on their own feet.
Next year will double.
در سال آینده ما حمایت هوایی را از نیروهای دولتی افغانستان 2 برابر می سازیم، زیرا امکانات بیشتر از جمله چرخبال‌های بلک هاک را در اختیار این نیروها می گذاریم. این روند چندین سال را در بر خواهد گرفت و علت آن این است که خلبان‌های این چرخبال‌ها و مهندسان باید درست آموزش داده شوند.
The Afghan forces are being backed by US troops who are training them so that they can eventually take over the country's defense and security. Nicholson had earlier in December last year said that the US and Afghan forces together will be putting more pressure on the Taliban and their choices will be to either reconcile or die.
More on news from Afghanistan. Locals in Afghanistan's western Herat province recently attended a street concert organized to welcome the inauguration of the work on a major pipeline project. The pipeline project, which will pass through the province, is expected to boost employment.
Scores of youngsters in Afghanistan's western Herat province recently thrown to witness a street concert held to celebrate the inauguration of the work on a major pipeline project. The pipeline project called Dapi will transport natural gas from Turkmenistan through Afghanistan into Pakistan and then to India. Local youth in Herat during the event expressed their happiness by dancing and singing as part of the pipeline will pass through their province and is expected to boost employment.
خب متاسفانه شرایط ایجاد نمیکنه هم از نگاه امنیتی هم روی مردم بیکارم اقتصاد وجود نداره.
According to locals, unemployment and poverty have increased murders and armed robberies in Herat as well as in other parts of the country. The concert allowed the locals in Herat to forget the hardships going on in the country as they hope for a better future for war-torn Afghanistan.
Tea export sector in Northeast India has hailed the country's biggest tax reform, the Goods and Services Tax or GST, which was introduced nationwide last summer. Tea traders in Assam's Guwahati city said the new tax regime is helping them ensure smoother operations and greater tax compliance.
India's celebrated tea export sector in northeastern Assam province has hailed the country's biggest tax reform, the Goods and Services Tax or the GST, which was introduced nationwide last summer. Tea traders in Assam's Guwahati city say the new tax regime is helping them ensure smoother operations and greater tax compliance. India's federal government had proposed tax slabs at 5% for the tea industry when GST was rolled out in July last year. Like other exports, overseas tea sales are exempt under India's tax code.
जीएसटी लगने के बाद में हम लोग अच्छा फील कर रहा है क्योंकि इसमें अब बिजनेस करना और आसान हो गया है बिजनेस अच्छा से हो रहा है उल्टा पहले क्या होता था बाहर माल भेजने से आउट ऑफ स्टेट माल भेजने से हम लोगों को सीफारम का बहुत प्रॉब्लम होता था अभी सीफारम हटने से हम लोग के लिए अच्छा हुआ है बिजनेस में
सबके लिए अच्छा हुआ है कंज्यूमर के लिए भी अच्छा हुआ है दे आर गेटिंग बेटर क्वालिटी एट the same price because tax rate is same but hassles has gone out.
The GST was presented as a means of boosting economic efficiency through cutting-edge technology and fiscal simplicity. It consolidated a web of federal and state levies into a single structure. When it was rolled out, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had said the new tax will not cause prices to rise while aiming to bring down tax leakages in the complex tax system.
A recently held two-day monastic festival attracted scores of visitors to a Buddhist monastery in Leh region of India's northern Jammu and Kashmir province. Dance, music, mask costumes remained the main highlight of the annual festival.
Scores of people thronged to witness a monastic festival called Spituk Gusto, which was recently held in India's northern Spituk Monastery of Leh city. The two-day festival saw a huge footfall by both locals and tourists. The festival had colourful performances with traditional music and folk dances by the locals. Spituk Gusto is annually held during the 11th month of Tibetan calendar and it marks the victory of good over evil.
I came all the way from Dubai just to see this Spituk Kompor festival and the mask performance is wonderful. And somehow I find the music, it's very wonderful. It's so mesmerizing. And I'm very much impressed about this.
A hallmark of the festival is the mask dance performed by the monks who sport various masks representing the guardians, protectors and the gods and goddesses. The festival ends with a symbolic termination of evils denoted by the burning of an effigy.
Well, that's all we have for you from South Asia this evening. Now our viewers can watch the show on southasianewsline.com. You can also visit us on facebook.com/SAsiaNewsline and follow us on Twitter @SAsiaNewsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We'll see you same time tomorrow. Good night.